Hi and welcome to my ICT Hub, where we make ICT concepts easier. This is John, your ICT tutor. Alright, today we want to look at data manipulation. Data manipulation basically speaks about database, the use of database. The question we'll be using today is the IGCSE ICT 0417 February March 2024 paper 2-1. But just before we start with the question, I want to give a little background information about database and what is expected of you from the IGCSE assessment body, what you expected to understand and how you're going to apply it in answering of the questions. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's quickly go down to a little instruction. Okay, let's start first with database. Now, like I said, data manipulation basically talks about database. Now, IGCSE expects you to know what a database is and the different types of database. A database is basically a collection of organized data. A collection of organized data. Like one of my students once said, a database is a base where data is stored. That still makes some level of sense. Data is usually stored somewhere for a particular reason and can be accessed by only authorized users. But at this level, IGCSE expects you to know how to handle basic databases and what are they made up of. What are the things you need to know about them and how do we use them, so that by the time you build on this information, you can go to a higher level on the use of SQL and other things online database. The next thing we want to look at is the types of database. And there are various types of database, but from IGCSE perspective, and oftentimes the database that we make use of generally out there are, the first one we have is a flat file database. A flat file database is a standalone database. It's a database that stores data rather in just one file. It stores data in just one database. Everything you have to do is just within one database. Now the second type of database we are looking at is the relational database. A relational database, unlike the flat file database, is basically a collection of flat file database that are linked together to create what we call a relationship. So relational database are a set of flat file database that are linked together in a relationship, so you can be able to use them or extract information across board. Now with a relational database tries to avoid the repetition of information, because if you have several databases like a flat file database, you might have to keep repeating information from one database to the other. But with a relational database, you can actually create a link and avoid repetition and be able to use several databases to achieve different purposes. Now, having known that introduction, then what is a database made up of? Databases are made up of what we call the objects. There are objects of every database. Every database is made up of 4 main objects. Let me start with the first object, which is like the part of the database, is the table. The table is the heart of every database. That is where every information or every data in the database is stored. The table is made up of like rows and columns, just like a spreadsheet. But unlike in spreadsheet, in database, the table, the rows is referred to as the records, and while the columns are referred to as fields. So a record is a collection of related fields. Every record is made up of various fields that are tied together or given a particular information or data about one of the fields. The next object of a database is the form. A form, as its name implies, basically is a form where you enter data. Now, if you're entering data on a sheet of paper or on a form manually, you notice you can't have to enter data for more than one particular object or particular person on a form at a time. A good example, if you are filling a manifest if you are filling a flight booking, you fill for one person per time, or per adventure if you have more than one, but it's just a detail for one person and it's collected. Now, if a different entity is to fill, it comes separately. So now a form basically is an interface wherein you relate with records, where you relate with data record by record, meaning you can view, you can edit, or you can enter data in one record at a time. You can view more than one record at a time, unlike the table which we spoke about. The table of a database gives you a view of the whole records and fields in a table form. But for a form, you have one record per time, and it makes it easier in the eyes to view, to edit, and to even enter your details. We will meet with that as we go on in this class. The next object of a database is a query. A query, another name for the query could be an advanced search or a filter. A query is used when you want to extract particular details or information from a database or from a relational database. A relational database, like I said, links various flat file databases together. Now, if you need to extract information from various databases that have been linked together in a relational database, a query is a very effective way you could use to do that. You can extract a controlled structure of information or data, and lastly, when you have been able to do that, then you can give it out on a report, which is the last object of a database. A report is like the hard copy extract of a database wherein you can be able to give out information either in form of table. A report can be presented in a table-like manner, or it can be presented in what we call labels. Labels are little flashcards wherein you can easily see full details of a particular report that you want to know about. It's not every time you want to have every details about a database. You might want to extract. And after the query has been able to extract, the report presents the information in a very lighter mode, easy to see and easy to understand than to look at the whole table. Now, having known that these are the 4 objects of a database, let's quickly take a look at it again. Do you know the 4 objects of a database? All right, let's see if you know. Firstly, the first object of a database is the table. Then we moved over to the form. Spoke about the query. And lastly, we said the report. Very good of you. Now, having understood that, IGCSE expects you to know how these 4 objects work together in a database. And that's what your test is made up of. You are being tested about a flat file database, relational database, the use of tables and its tools, a form, a query, and end up with a report. Having known that, let's dive into the question. All right, today we are, like I said, we are looking at February, March 2024, paper 2-1. We started out, we've done the Word documents production. If you don't have that, you could check on my video or check on my channel. We have treated that. Today we want to treat the data manipulation, that is the database. Let's start out with this question. You're now going to prepare some reports. Now, let me ask the question again. Which part of the objects of a database is the report? That is the printout, the end part, the part that is going to be handled. Now, you see why IGCSE says you're going to prepare reports? Because at the end of this task, you will be expected to give a printout copy of whatever you do with this database. And that is why it says you are now going to prepare some reports. Now, let's continue. It says, make sure all currency values display the same currency symbols and are set to 2 decimal places. That's an important information that you need in the tables. When setting your data types in the tables, it says wherever you see any information that has to do with that has to do with currency values, it should be set to what? To a currency symbol and 2 decimal places. Now we have that information on hand. Let's move on. The first thing now says, examine the file games, right? And identify the most appropriate field to set as a primary key. What is a primary key? A primary key is a unique identifier of every record on a database, meaning whatever you set as a primary key, that particular field, the data in that field cannot be duplicated. It's always unique to every record on the database. Let's go down and open this file and see how we locate the primary key, which means which field can we set to be the unique identifier of every record on the database. Now let's go to the source files to look for that particular file. Okay, here I am on my source files. Let's open, it's a CSV file. It can be opened with a spreadsheet. So let's first open it to see. But one of the rules about using a spreadsheet or such a file like this with the access or your database is you do not open it. You keep it closed and ensure that it's not opened while you use it in your database. But for now, we need to examine it first as the question says. So let's open that file to examine it. Okay, here we have the games file. Now, how do we examine to know? Looking at this data, we just taking a look at it, we can't know which of it is the unique identifier. So what do? Let's highlight all the fields, all the columns. You might want to double click it so you can see all the field names, all the column titles. Then you go to conditional formatting. Click on highlight rows and come down to duplicate values. Click on duplicate values. Instantly you can see this. A color has been set, a particular rule has been set. Let's click on OK and let's look through. Wherever you see these colors, that means there are duplicates in this database. Taking a look at this first column, we have column A. We already have duplicates. There's no unique identifier. Those two, oh no. Here we have one D. Okay, this looks like a unique a field we could use for the primary key. But let's not stop on that. We have this, no this, no this, not for this, not for this. But here we have on column K. It looks like column K and D, but we need only one of it. So let's scroll down briefly to see if we could see if both of it can be used as a unique identifier. Oh no, at this point now, can you see? Column K has duplicate values. So with these duplicate values, that means we are left with column D. But let's still scroll down to see if we can find any other duplicate value in D. Can we? Definitely not. So that means we set D as a duplicate, as our primary key. Now what's the title for D? Let's go closer. That's our game code. So take note, we have the game code to be set as our primary key. So now once we are done with that, let's close this. Remember, do not save anything, do not edit anything, and make sure it is closed before you use it in your database. All right, let's switch over to the database. Now I've opened my Access, which is the application program Microsoft Office Access will be using for this database. Now let's go back to the question, which says, now we have been able to identify it. We close this file. Very important that you close the file after examining. We have identified that the game code is our primary key. So we want to highlight that so we don't forget. Let's highlight that. Okay. We are setting that as our primary key. Now let's move on. Using this database software, import the file games. Okay, now we move to a database software. How do we import a file? When you import a file, that means you're importing a flat file database because it's just a standalone file. And there are two ways you could do that. Either you go to your external files, the menu. You can see the menu is divided into two groups. We have the imports group and we have the exports group. You use this at the end of your file if you want to change your file, possibly from database, and you want to export it to another file format, PDF, Excel, another database, as the case may be. But for now, we want to import a file. If you click on this tool, you want to import it from a file where it is saved, and you come down to text file. While we're using a text file, remember our file is a CSV file. Take a look at the question here. Sorry, we have is games.csv. CSV, that means comma separated values. Comma separated values. Now, if it's a text file, so we are going to be using text file from there. Or another way around this is to right click on this existing table. Remember, it's the only, even though it's empty, it's the heart of every database, so you always have your table in your object pane. So we go over to import, and then you can click on text file. And the dialog box opens where you have to link, or we have to browse to where the file exists. You click on browse. Here I have my files, I have the games. Okay, click on open, and let's leave it on the first selection because you want it to stay on a new table. Now the first thing there says we have the delimiter. Can I zoom in so you can see properly? The first option speaks about which of these, the delimiter or the fixed width. Now remember, it says characters such as comma or tab separates each field. Remember, we said it's a CSV file, a comma separated value file. So we are going with this option. Like you can see, each of the values are separated with comma. That's why it's a CSV file. All right, so let's take away the zoom. Then we click on next. The next thing is to pick the field name. Now the first row, like you saw in the spreadsheet, is where we have the field name. If you do not select this, Access will not pick those names. But now you've selected this, it picks all of those names and placing them as the field names. So it's easy to identify which field you are dealing with. Let's move over to the next. And the next part here is where we set our data types, where we set each data type for every of the field. Now in this part here, you can see the information we have is the data type. And go closer for those of you using a mobile device. You might want to see this clearly. So we have the field names, we have the indexed, we have the data type. And each of the fields, you want to set the different data types as is given in the question. So let me take away the zoom so we could take a look at our question. Quickly, let's take a look at the question. All right. It says use these field names and data types. Please take note at this point you are more concerned with this row, this column, and this column, the field name and the data types. I'm going to show you where we can do other works on this or other editings on the display and the store. But for now, we are concerned more with the field names and the data types. So we take a look at this. We have the first field is text, followed by number. We have text, 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 number and currency, text, text, number, and number. So let's quickly go there and set each of these fields to their different data types. Okay, so we move back. Here we are. On the first field, we have short text, which is text. We move to the second field. We have what? We have long integer. Yes, now Access is smart in the sense that it takes a look at the data in that field and looks at which type of number, because we have the dual, we have the double, we have the integer. You could have a decimal place, or you could have an integer. Now, taking a look at the contents in that field, it has set it to long integer, which is a type of number. The next one we have again is a short text. And we have a short text again. I think we have short text in 4 places. There's 1, 2, 3 here. We have short text. And the fourth one we have is short text. And you want to click on this to move it to the other side. Okay. Now we go to the next one, which is the price now. We have the price here, which is set to what? It's set to double. But if you look at the question, under the price, we have number or currency. Let me just quickly go back there so you can see. Under price, we have number, currency. Remember the information given to us that wherever you see a currency value, it should be set to 2 decimal places. So let's go back and set the data type to currency. And I zoom in for those of you who can see. Okay, we click on this and we want to set to currency. Where is currency? Here we selected currency for that particular data type. Can we zoom out? All right, the next one we have again is text. We click on this field, short text, in order. We have text again, short text. Then we have number. Now, take a look at this number. It's not a long integer under this global sales. We don't have long integer. This time we are having double because Access has checked through the field, through the content of the data in the field, and has seen that it's a decimal place and it set it to double. So we want to go with double. Next, we go with this again, which is the long integer, 0 decimal place. Okay, yes, so we can see this is set to number integer. Okay, now let's move on. We click on next. What is the school of thought says we could use our advanced to kind of set our numbers properly so we do not have any errors. But one thing you should also take note is that from this part, it's quite easy. Remember, at this channel, we try to make ICT concepts easier. Try to take out the complexities and use the easier aspects to still derive at your solution. From this part, once you set all this, there are other parts once we get to the database where we could reset our details. But it's very important that you get your data types right at this level. If you don't get these data types right, the importation might come with errors. So please make sure you confirm all of your data types before you leave this interface. All right, here we want to set the primary key. Remember, what did we say the primary key is? Let's check back with that. We said a game code is the primary key. Okay, so we want to set the game code. We select this option and we go to the game code. Yes, we set that as our primary key. Click on next and you want to finish. Okay. Very well done. Now let's double click on that to see. All right, we have all our fields. Okay, this sets an error here. Okay, so let's go back and take a closer look. If we go to our home and go to our design view, now we want to take a look at, yes, all our data properly. We have the short text. Let's start from the top. Short text, yes. Then we have the number. The next one we have is text, 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 correct. We have the currency. Now to stop at this currency, now if you check our question, it says currency symbol with 2 decimal places. So we want to check our decimal place here and ensure that we are setting it to 2 decimal places there, and we could still reinfer our currency here. Which of the formats? Yes, we want to go with currency, and we have our 2 decimal places. Now we go to the next one. We have the short text. Remember, we're in the design view, not the datasheet view. Now we have the text, we have number. And this number, again, if we look at our question, it says 2 decimal places. So we want to change our format here. Can I go a bit closer for those of you who can see? Now in the field properties, you want to change from this to fixed. So let's make it fixed. Okay, the number, okay, still, I like to leave it there as double, but okay, there's the formats. We want to change our format to fixed. Yes, it makes it easier so that if we have 0 points, maybe 1 0, it ensures that it's always displayed in 2 decimal places. Then lastly, we want to change our decimal place, sorry for the view, to 2 decimal places. Okay, once we are done with that, the next option, last one, that says 0 decimal place. So we have it as integer and we are sure it's a 0 decimal place. Let's turn off the zoom and then we can go back, save this, and then let's go back to our datasheet view. Okay, yes, we have the set to 2 decimal places. Good, noted 0 decimal place. We have our currency with 2 decimal places. Okay, and we are done with that. Now let's move on to the next question that says, set the identifiable field as a primary key, which we have already done that. Save the data. Now place in your evidence document a screenshot showing the field names. Take note of the screenshot. It says field names. What do you want to show? You want to show the evidence of the field names. You want to show evidence of the data types, and you want to show evidence of the primary key used. This is very important when you are taking your screenshot, because you cannot show evidence of this from your printout in the report. There is no how your graders will be able to see the primary, which of the fields you set as primary key. But from this structure, you'll be able to set that. So let's take a screenshot of that. We go back to our design view. Okay, now take a look at where we have the primary key visible here. So it's very important that you set the primary key. Make sure that your screenshot can capture the primary key. So I want to use my sniping tool. All right, I put up my sniping tool. Let's take a new screenshot. Make sure your screenshot shows the primary key, all the structures, the field names, and the data types. Remember, we don't need this property. So let's go to our, okay, started that. Okay, we want to drop exactly that's good. What we want, it's a little bit big because it's moving to the next page. We want to make it smaller. Oh, better still, you might leave it. There's no point. It's very important that it is visible for your graders to be able to see. Maybe you want to make this smaller so that can come in there. Good, beautiful. All right, so we have that in there. So we move on to the question. Okay, let me just minimize this and move on to the question. So let's go back to the datasheet view. That was saved. I'll move on to our next question, which says, import the file C02 classifications.csv as a new table in your database. Now use the field names and data types provided as whatever Access picks. Just you go ahead and use it. Set age code as a primary key. So in this situation, we are not giving specific data types. You have to use whatever data type Access provides for it. So let's look for that particular file. So we go back to Access. Once again, we want to import. Let's use the second method. We go through this, go to File, then Text File. We want to browse, and we want to pick classifications. Okay, so we're picking that. We can OK. Good. Then we want to ensure that we pick field names. We are told to leave whatever data type that was set, and we are setting age code as our primary key. Right, let's confirm that. Set age code good as our primary key, and we click on next, and we finish. Okay, very well. Now let's double click on that to see. Okay, yeah, we have that saved in. And the next question says, place in your evidence document a screenshot showing the field names, data types, and primary key. Once again, they want to see the primary key that is set. So we go to our home menu, change your design view, and you can see the primary key will visible there. So we want to do a screenshot of that. Let's go to my sniping tool. Okay, we want a new, and we want to pick that. Yes, that's about all that is needed for that. Then you go to evidence document, and you want to drop that. Okay, now we can see the field names, the data types, and the primary key, which is what is expected, what is requested of us. Let's go back to the question and we move on. Now import a third table here. I like this. It says the file c02general.csv as a new table in your database. Use the field names and data provided. We set gen_code as a primary key. Okay, so now you should be able to do that. Remember, I always tell my students, it's easier you watch someone do it. Always learn to practice on your own to be sure that you are confident to do this. The questions and the source files I already just dropped. The link to the question and the source files I dropped in my description below. So let's pick in that table. Now let's go back to this. We go to text file. And this time we want to pick genre. Okay, we have that here. Let's pick that file. Okay, go with this, pick field names. All right, let's just check again on the primary key. So set gencode as the primary key. So I want to select this. I'll select mine, select gencode as my primary key. Finish up on there. I'm sure they would require an evidence document for this. So let's check the genre. Here we have, let's check a question. Exactly, facing evidence document screenshot showing the field names again, the data types, and the primary key in the table. Very important, you have to show them the evidence of the primary key. So we'll go to the screenshot. Okay, we have our primary key visible there. I'll take my sniping tool, and let's pick a new screenshot there. Okay, very well done. Good. And we could drop that in our evidence document 13. Good. The field names, the data type, and the primary key all visible. Okay, let's move on. Now the next step is we have been able to import 3 flat files. Remember the types of database? We've been able to import 3 flat file databases which are operating individually on their own. But now we want to move to the next step, which IGCSE expects you to also know how to create a relational database. So the question comes, create a one-to-many relationships as links between. The first one says gen code in the genre table and gen code in the games table. Now please take note of this arrangement. It's very important that you follow this arrangement, else you will be making the pointing of the tables or the relationship might be getting it all wrong. So even though they are both the same name, but take note they are in different tables. So it's going from the genre tables to the games table. So let's go down there and see how we do that. Save this, go back to my datasheet view. Then we go to database tools and we click on relationships. Now you want to insert relationships. Here it's already displayed the tables you want to use. You might just click here and add tables, generate, or if you don't have that, let me take it off just in case you find yourself in this situation. Just right click and show tables, and this will pop up either below or somewhere here. Then you can double click on it or add tables, or you can just click and add tables. All right, once I'm done, you want to double click on the outline to be sure everything is visible. Now the first question says we are going from gen code in the genre table to gen code in the games table. Am I right? Okay, let's zoom in so you can all see what I'm going to do. Now we take a close look. Let's locate the gen code in the genre table. Can you see that? Okay, here's the gen code, and we have the gen code in the games table also. So we're going to pick from the first table, which is gen code in the genre table, click and drag it, then drop it on the other table or the other field in the games table. Now you can see it's going to create a one-to-many relationship that way, from this code to this, from this genre table to games table. Then you want to click on create. Very simple. Okay, let me turn off my zoom and we go to the next question. Next question says, now we're also creating a link between age code in classifications table and the age code in the games table. Once again, you are moving from the classifications table to the games table, the field age code field in the classifications table to the age code field in the genre table, in the games table, I beg your pardon. So let's quickly go down there to do that. Let me zoom in again, once again, for you to see. Now we locate the age code in the classification table, and we want to locate the age code in the genre table. Can you see that? Okay, here it is. Very good. So we want to pick this, click from here, drag it, and drop it here. Please, if you do it in the reverse order, you might have a different type of relationship. and that's why it's very necessary you follow that arrangement. Remember, before IGCSE gives you this question, they have actually tried it out and they've known what will happen, so they expect you to be able to follow through step by step. Okay, now we create this, and very well, that is done. Good. Now we move on. The evidence document says, place in your evidence document screenshots showing the type of relationships between the three tables. Now take note, it emphasizes on the types of relationship. The types of relationship. Now, if I just take a screenshot of this, all these screenshots will be showing is just that there are relationships between the tables, but it's not going to tell me what type of relationship. So it's important that you want to see the types of relationships. So I click on the line and double click on it. This is where the type of relationship will be visible. One-to-many relationship. Okay, and remember the question says create a one-to-many relationship. So I want to take a first screenshot of this because we can't open the two at the same time. Go to my snipe tool. Okay, take a first screenshot from this aspect. Okay, showing that. Then I want to paste that in my evidence document. Step 14. Now because we did it twice, so we need to paste two of this. I could close this, click on OK. Now go to the order line, double click on it, open it up, bring it down, then take another screenshot of that. It's my slide too. Okay. Click on that. Then I want to take a next screenshot which shows the tables and the type. Okay, very well. So you can see it shows the tables, it shows the field and the type of relationship that was done. Okay, so once we are done with that, we want to go back to a table. Let's continue the question. Okay, now the next question says, add the following as a new record in the games table. Adding a new record in the games table, remember for our forms, even though the question did not say anything about forms here, I advise that it's always easier to use forms to do this because you are sure that you're not going to be mixing up values, you're not going to tamper on the table or touch something else that will destroy, because your database tables can be very, very sensitive. If you mix up something, you might find it very hard. Under exam situation, you might find it very hard to find your way back. So I advise that when you are entering a value, remember forms is used to enter, edit, or to view data record by record. And since this is just a unique, just one record, we want to enter different fields. So I advise that you create a form to keep it safe. Nevertheless, I'm going to show you what you can also do if you wanted to use the tables directly. Just go to your games table. You know the question says in the games table. When you go to your games table, come down to the arrow that has a star here, yellow star, click on that. It's going to give you the space below. So you could enter it here if you feel you would not make any mistake and you could be safe. You can go ahead and do that. But on the other hand, I want to create a form and show you how to use a form. And the create tab, we have 4 types of groups. We have the table, the queries, we have the form, and then we have the reports. I want to use my form wizard. Now I'm picking on my games table because it's already selected. I need all the fields from the games table. Click on this, columnar next, and then I finish with that. Very easily, you can see the form has been created. If you want to edit your forms, you can either use your design view, or you could use your layout view. I kind of find it much easier to use my layout view. You could just want to resize, hold down your shift button if you want them to be at equal sizes. This is just a little digression, please. Come to the side and you can reduce them to the same. Or if you want to reduce the height also, you could reduce it from below, come to it, kind of like that to make it more presentable. But that's because the question did not say we should do anything about that for now. Hopefully in another video, I'll show you how we could create buttons, how we could create all other different features about forms, which IGCSE would also expect you to know how to use radio buttons, how to use drop down, combo buttons, and the likes. But for now, we just want to enter a record into this form. So let's go ahead and enter the record. So once again, you want to look for the star, the arrow with the star, the play button, click on that, it wipes off. Sorry, I omitted. You should be in the form view while you are doing this. Okay, very important, should be in the form view. Okay, we have a new form. Now we'll go back, and for you, you will be typing the exam situation, but for me, I could just copy and paste. Okay, so we have there, we pick on this, okay, copy, want to paste. Please, while you are typing, you have to be very careful to ensure that every detail in your field is accurate. It's very important because IGCSE would also check for the accuracy of the details you are typing in. It's part of what they are going to test you for. So please make sure that you ensure that while typing in your data in each of the fields, you want to be sure that you are not making any mistake. Okay, I go to the next field. I want to pick up this now, copy. Okay, I'm almost done. Luckily for me, I'm just copying and pasting. Okay, yeah, I'm almost there. I'm missing any field. Okay, the last field, which is the rank, I have this, and that's it. Now, when you are done with that, please ensure you save. The shortcut for save, you know, is Control S. Ensure you save that. While you've saved that, I want to check my rank. Okay, Dr. Jones, my rank should be 203. Why am I seeing? Okay, so I want to change that to 203, please. 203, I think I copied. So that's why it's very important that you always ensure you check to be sure that your every data you type in is accurate. I've been able to ensure that is accurate. When I'm done, I could just close the form. I want to go to my table, my games table. To confirm that that file is there, you can resave there. Let's check from the field. I click on that field. I want to find Dr. Thomas. Okay, let's just look for that. Sorry, should be here. Okay, that's sometimes you have such errors. You just want to save. You want to close that particular table, open it back again, and let's now check it. Okay, now it's been updated. Yes, that's updated that. You can see all our records are accurate. See, let's say the 203. Yes, so it's accurate. So that means it's updated into the table. So now we can move on to the next question. Now it says, check your data entry for errors, save the table, save the data, sorry, and you have 2 marks for that. They will have where they will be able to check, because this record is going to be one of the records you're going to be printing in the report. So they will definitely find a way to confirm that, else they will have requested that you use an evidence document. So let's move on. That's why it's important that you make sure that your every data is accurate. Now to create the next thing, we want to create the report. It says using fields from all these tables, produce a tabular report. Now can you remember that the fourth object of the database is the report, right? But we've not spoken about a query here, so we want to see how do we use a query in this. Remember I said a query is an advanced search or a filter. If you look at this question holistically, we have select the records where this console type begins with the text Cyrus, release year is this, 210 shows only these particular fields. Okay, now sort the data into ascending order of rank. Then we also have page orientation of portrait, fits on a single page, includes only this title, displayed at large fonts, fully visible at the top of the page, and has your name, center number, and candidate number on the report. How do we start this? I advise that you go through your query, because it's usually easier to be able to extract your required fields from your query, and to also run the filter. But nevertheless, if you don't have a new field you are creating, you can skip the field. You can skip the query rather, but I advise that you actually use a query here, because it's going to be easier to pick out this field. Now let's take a look at it. It says from all the 3 tables. So let's quickly use that so I could teach you how to use the query. Now we go to create. We want to create a query. You either use your query with your query design. For me, I prefer to use a query design because it's easier to pick the fields from that. So we want to pick from the 3 fields. I double click, and double click. And we have all the 3. Now all right. Now, if you wanted to use the query wizard, you would have to be looking for all of those fields one after the other. I'm going to show you what that looks like later on after this. But let's quickly pick. This is always easier to pick the fields because you can see everything fully displayed. You can pick the field, select, and it's going to drop. Now, how do we select the fields that we require? It says shows only the fields game for that. Okay, we have the game title, we have the game age, we have the age category, please, games, we have age category, release year, the console type, and then we have the rank. Take note, in this order, with data and labels displayed in full, do not group the data. Okay, now before I start on that, I always like to check this, that you check the fields that are required is a part of this one that we're going to use to sort. First, let's take a look at the console type. Do we have the console type here? Yes, we do. Then we have the release year. Do we have? Okay, that's perfect. You're gonna see the reason why I say so. So let's go. We have the game title, game age, and game and age category. Now let me zoom in so we can see that. It's gonna be coming from the 3 tables, so you have to be looking around to see which one where you have. So we have the game title, we have the game. Sorry. Okay, we have the game. Double click on this, and you see it's going to be dropping, populating here in the object pane. So we have the title, we have the game, we have the age category. Where do we have age category? That should be in this table. We double click on that, it picks that in. Then we have, sorry for the view, we have the release year, console type, and the rank. Okay, always be done. The release year here, click and double click, brings it down. Release year, console type. Where do we have the console type? We have the console type here, and then we have the rank. Okay, now those are the fields we need. Let's take off the zoom. And all the fields have been brought down in. Then we can run this, and we have that. Now, on the other hand, if you wanted to use the query wizard, let me show you what that will look like. If you want to use the query wizard, okay, yes, I need to save this query first, so I could just call it as query 1 of first query reports query 1, something like that. Okay, now save that. Okay. Now, this is for the query wizard. If you want to use the wizard, you have to start looking for each of the fields one by one, like if like each category was part of it. In that order, you want to start with the game title. You pick this, you want to pick the game. Then if you have another field, you have to go to the next table, like that. Keep looking for the fields from the difference until all the fields have been populated here. Then you could go to click and finish, but I don't want to use that. It's kind of easier to use my query design. Okay, so now that this has been populated, I've been able to run this, so I can see that everything is visible. Now the next thing is, before you leave here, you want to run this particular filter. You want to carry out this filtering. Now there are 2 ways we could run this filter. You can either do it here in the query, or you could do it even in your reports. But I'm going to start with the query first. Even in the query also, you could do it in 2 ways. Either you are doing it in your datasheet view, or you are doing it in your design view. Let's start with the design view. If I start with the design view, that means you have to write the syntax. Some of us are not so, we don't want light syntax, but I'm going to try and explain it. Remember, in my channel, we try to make ICT concepts easier. Okay, now the first one says the console type begins with the text Cyrus. Now there's a statement we use like whenever you're dealing with text in your query. You use the word like. When we use like whenever you want to pick something from, like a part of you're comparing a text that is a part of a field, not the complete whole field name. Like in this instruction says that console type begins with the text Cyrus. Now that means anything could fill up the word, but it should begin with Cyrus. Now once the word anything there, we also use that, we use asterisk as that. Let me show you what I mean. So let's pick Cyrus, and we want to locate the console type. Let me zoom in for you to see clearly what I'm doing. So we go to the console type here. There we have not the sort. We want the criteria to filter. So there I'm going to type like. Then I want to type quotes Cyrus with an asterisk. And the reason for the asterisk is it means it's going to begin with Cyrus, and anything can fill up. Now, if it's something that should end with Cyrus, it's going to start with the asterisk and then Cyrus. And if Cyrus should be a part of the text, just anywhere within the text, within the field name, or within the content of that field, you just want anything, but Cyrus should be a part of it. It's going to be asterisk, Cyrus, and asterisk. But in this situation, it says it should start with Cyrus. Okay, so let's confirm that. Okay, let's take the zoom. It should begin, with Cyrus. Okay, so we have that Cyrus. And the second condition says release year is 2010 or later, meaning 2010 is inclusive. If you took it, if you consider that in dates, 2010 or later, later year will be 2011, 2012, am I right? But if it's 2010 or earlier, then we are going backwards, 2009, that way. So if it is going higher, then it's greater. So we want something that has 2010 and greater. So we are using equals to 2010 and greater. So let's go back there, still in our design view. So we remember we're looking at the release year. Sorry for the switch. Let's zoom in again. We go to our release year. Criteria says greater than or equals to 2010, because we want 2010 inclusive. So once you are done with that, you want to close and then run it. Let's take a look. How many records did we come back with? Below here, you can see the number of records we came back. We came back with 32 records. Okay, now this is the first method you can use to do that in the query. Now, for some of you who don't like writing the syntax, not every one of us like to be a programmer kind of a thing, I want to take this out again, and I'm going to do it the other way for you to see. So it's up to you to choose. Remember, in the station, we try to make ICT concepts easier. So I run this now, I'm back to all my records again. Now, from the datasheet interface, I want to do the query from here. Now, to do that, the first one says, just let me increase this, the console type should begin with Cyrus. Okay, so I come to the console type, click on this little arrow, go to your text filters. If you look at these options here, we have the equals, we have does not include, so yes, we have begin with. Let me go closer for some of you who can see what I'm saying. Here we have equals, we have does not equal, we have begins with, does not begin with, contains, does not contain, ends with, does not end with. But remember, it says it should begin with. So I'm going with this option. I say it should begin with Cyrus. All right? Easily you click on this. Okay, here we have that. The first one has been done. Then it also says the release year should be greater than 2000, and later we go to our number filters, we want greater than. But remember, what we want is greater than or equals to. So you might feel it's not there, but let's click on greater than. Now you can see the statement says release year is greater than or equals to. So in a situation where you have like a release year is just only says later than 2010, that means 2010 is not inclusive. In this situation, you're going to be having 2011. But this question here says 2010 or later. So we are going to start from 2010. And once we do that, we click on OK. We are done with our filtering. Let's check how many records. 32. Can you see? Both methods still gives us the same number of fields, the same number of records, please. I beg pardon. So, but one thing about this particular method is once you are done with this, you don't want to go back, or you are not to go back to your design view. Once you change over to your design view, everything you've done here, you have to do it again. You have to repeat it again. So one very important thing I always tell students is when you use this method, keep checking here to make sure that your number of records still stays the number you generated when you are done doing this. So when you are done with this, you want to save it. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to move over to my report. So once we are done with the query, you want to create my report. You go to create, and then you go to the report. Remember, I told you that the report could either be in two ways. It could either be a report or it could be a label. The label are the flashcards when you have them little flashcards. If you see a question, I'm going to show you how to do that in subsequent videos. So let's go with the report because we are not told to use label. Go to our report wizard. Now we want to use the query I saved, which is report yes, already selected. So we pick every field there in that order. Then we want to click next. Okay, now in this part, remember it says it should not be grouped. If you pick on any of this, you pick here, it's going to be grouping it by each category. Pick here is going to be grouping it by this, but we want the option that is not grouped. So you pick the one that is not grouped, which none of it is being grouped. Then you select none, next. You're still not grouping here, click next. Now, at this aspect, you could actually, if you check your question, it says, sort the data into ascending order of rank. You might want to be tempted to do this here, but I don't advise you to do this here, because if you do that, it's going to distort your arrangement in the order in which it's going to be in the report, and you might need to start rearranging that. And because of time situation, you want to save time. Every time counts in the examination. So you don't want to do this. So I'll advise you just skip this. I'll show you how to do that in the reports interface. And the next one is you want to look at, it says a tabular report, remember, and now it says the orientation is portrait. Yes, portrait is selected. Okay, we click on next, and the title, let's just finish it there. All right, here we are. When you get to your report, it has four views. It has the report view, it has the print preview, it has the layout, and the design view. Here we are on the print preview. I want to close this. Okay, and I want to change the layout view to start with. Let's take a look at my layout view. Okay, here it is. Let's take a look at the print preview, please, to see is it in one page. Okay, here we are. Okay, it's in 2 pages, so we have some of our text has moved to the other page. I'm going to show you how to compress that quickly. All right, so we move back, but we are sure that we have the 2 records. Okay, go back to that. Now let's start the editing. To do that, we're going to go, let's start with a design view. At the design view, the next question we want to pick, okay, let's sort the data into ascending order of rank. Sorry, I want to go back to my layout view. I prefer to work with my layout view for this. Change back to my layout view. Now under the layout view, pick this option, and here you have group and sort. So I click on this, I want to go to my sort. At the sort, it says rank. And when you click on rank, now the option here is ascending or descending order. Now if you notice, this option does not usually say ascending or descending. It gives its own statement based on the data in that particular field. But one of the advice I'll give you to make this easier is the first one is always the ascending and the second is the descending. So if you don't understand what is written there or you feel confused, just know the first is ascending, the second is descending. So I pick on ascending, and once you are done with that, please don't close here. Just click back on the tool and it's going to rearrange it in order of rank. Okay, here we are. Now the view is not fully visible. I don't want this now. So I want to rearrange. This is the end of the page. So you want to rearrange your data so that it's all fully visible. You could use your mouse, or sorry, you could use your mouse to drag it, or your keyboard. I prefer using my keyboard. If you hold down the arrow keys, it moves. If you hold down the shift key, you can actually use this to extend this. Hold down my arrow key, I can move that. Just click on the details. You move that in quickly. Okay, so I want to hold down my shift key, resize this. I want to bring this in. Let me check through. Okay, it's okay, so I could bring this in. Yes, I have that. Okay, now I want to bring my rank. First, I'm going to hold my shift key to bring this open. Bring it in. Okay, then I want to bring this in with the arrow key. Then hold down the shift key for it to be visible. Now we could check from that. Is it actually in ascending order? Yes, it's increasing. So it's in ascending order. Check all others. Okay, it's like something that's visible here. I want to reduce the size. Remember, I hold down my shift key to reduce the size. Check through. Yeah. And I move this in. Okay, come down, sorry, to this. I pull down my shift key to extend it to be sure everything is fully visible. Yes. Okay, I can move this here. The title must be on top of every other detail. Okay, so I think now this is fully visible. It's well arranged in the order we want it to be. But now it's still in 2 pages. So what do we do? Now let's go to our design view. Before we are done, now we have, it should be on a single page. So now we have to go to our design view. Now let's check on the different sections how we could reduce the spacing. So here, if you have the spacing here, you could see see your title, you could reduce the spacing here. If you look at this is, okay, sorry, I want to do that. Okay, so I could move all of my field up a little to give me some space there. The labels there so you can actually reduce the size from the top, and from the contents here also you want to reduce the size. Now let's check on this to see if we already have. Now we have it. Okay, let's see our print preview. Okay, and there we have on one page here. So now it's done. We have it on one page, but we are not yet done. Remember, let's check our question. The next one says includes this title at the top. Okay, so you can do this both on your layout view or close my print preview on your design view. Level 2, come here, you select everything you have here. Highlight, sorry. Select it all and paste it. If you go to your layout view, same thing also, you could go to your layout view. You can still edit from there. Double click, highlight, and you can paste. Okay, so that title is there. And lastly, we have has your name center number. Carrying this number on the report. Now it does not say where it wants it to be, but it's usually better at the bottom of the report. So let's go back to design view. Here at the design view, you want to insert that in the footer here. So we don't want this. You want to take this out and you want to use a label. Please take note, we have a text box and we have a label. Labels are used for just text informations like this, but text box can be used when you want to generate an expression, an equation. You're writing an equation that needs to be calculated or something. So please do not make use of your text box when you have to use your label. If you hover over it, you can see it has even popped up the name label. So I click on that and I want to put my name somewhere here. Okay, so there we have John, and I want to have my center number NG 322, something like that. And okay, All right, now let's check that and see my print preview. Okay, yes, that's my name below the data. Okay, so you are done. Once you are done with this, you are free to print. If you have a printer already connected, you could just print. Or if you want to save this document out another way, sometimes in past questions, I've had situations where we are told to export this as a PDF. So if you want to do that as a PDF, what do we do? If you are told to export it as a PDF document or as another, remember I told you about using the export view. So if I click on this is my report. I could go to my external data, and here I could click export as PDF, or once again like the import, you can right click, come to your exports, and export it as a PDF, and it will export that particularly to ask you for a name, give a file name and a location, and you can export that to PDF. Okay, and for that particular question is solved. So let's move on. Say save the report. Now the next one is where we want to use field from the games table and the classifications table, just two of it. Now the three tables, produce a tabular report that, now let's start out with that. First we need to go to our query. Now why do we need query in this situation? It's very imperative that you use a query because you have a new field. Let's read it through. It says selects the records where the game title includes the text this Thomas and the age code is C3 or C7 and contains a new field called sales percent, which is calculated at runtime. This field will display the percentage sales of each game in the selection. Now the total number of the games sold was 354. Use global sales divided by 354. Global sales is a field divided by 354, then multiplied by 100. Format this field to display with 2 decimal places. Good. Now we have shows. What is the fields that we need in our report? We have shows only these fields to generate game title, each category, global sales, game publisher, console type, we have the price, and the sales percent. And once again, like I advise, before you go ahead of this, take ahead to start generating, take a look at this. Do I have these two fields which I'm going to be using to carry out my filtering? I didn't show you how to do the filtering in the report, but I'll also show you later. How to carry out my filtering, do I have them in the required fields? Let's take a look at game title. Here we have game title, but age code, do we have age code? Okay, age code is nowhere here. So I want to highlight that so that I could take note of that when including it as one of the fields. It's going to be easier, you include it in the report, in the query view, so that you can use it to run your filters. So let's go down, we have the game title, age category, and global sales. So let's want to create another query. I'm going to be using my query design. I'm going to be make this. I want tables, say table games and the classifications table. So I want to pick the classifications table and I want to pick the games table. Right, then I want to double click on the outline so it's going to be fully visible. All right, the fields I need game title, each category. Can I zoom in for us to see? Okay, now we can all see that properly. We have the game title, drop that. We have the category. Okay, where do we have category here? Category, okay, each category. Yes, double click on that. Then the next thing we have after that is, here we have the global sales, we have the game publisher, the global sales should be somewhere here. We have the global sales, double click on that. Okay, it's down. And after the global sales, then we now have the game publisher, then we have the console type, the game publisher, then we have the console type. All right, yes, console type. And lastly, we have the price. Where do we have the price? Here, we have price here. Okay, and do we have now the sales percent now is the new field we want to create. So I'm going to be taking out the zoom. Let's take a look at all of this. Now, having done that, before you create your new field, I advise that you always run it to be sure everything is in order. Here we have all our fields and they are displaying properly. So we want to return back to our design view. Unfortunately, the only place you can actually create a new field for now in your query is the design view. I want to believe Microsoft will be working on that. Possibly if they can get that, the one that you can also create it, your new field in your datasheet view. But for now, we have to do that in our design view. So we want to right click on this and you want to use the build. Sorry, make sure you're on the top. Okay, right click and you want to use the build. Okay, for those of us using what's it called, the mobile device, you might not have seen what I did. So I want to go close again. Make sure you click at the top, the first row, right click, and you want to click on build. And when you click on build, the dialog box is going to pop up. Let me zoom down. Okay, dialog box is going to pop up where we want to build. Now we need information from our tables, so we have to open our tables. Okay, now the question says it's going to be calculated at runtime. It's going to be using the global sales divided by 354. The global sales is actually in the games table. Okay, so we have a global sales, double click on that field, it picks that field. Now divided by 354, you know, in division in coding is slash, we have 354, and multiplied by 100. Now we don't need to use the brackets because these two are at the same level, and it's going to act with the one it meets first from the left. Supposing we're using a plus, an addition sign, or a subtraction, now we know that is at a lower level. But for this, they are both at the same level, so we could just leave it without the brackets. Once we are done with that, click on your OK, and you can see the expression is written here. Now let me try and take out the zoom again, and let's run it. Okay, here we have something here. Okay, these are the values. Remember, it says from the question that it should display with 2 decimal places. 2 decimal places. So let's go back. It should display with 2 decimal places. That all is a currency, no, not a currency. So let's go back to our design view. I want to right click there and click on properties. And the properties, can I zoom in for you to see what I'm going to do? Come to your format, and you want to select the fixed. Then you want to pick it 2 decimal places, that's 2. Okay, once you are done with that, then let's run it again and check if it's going to give us what we want. Perfect. So we have 2 decimal places for this. But before we leave, remember we have the name of the field was given to be sales percent. So I want to change that field name. Where do I do that? Go back to your design view. Please, you might want to practice this on your own. You'll see if you do it on your own, you're going to do much faster once you understand the principle. Before the colon, do not take away the colon, just before the colon, everything EXP1, then you want to type behind that. Okay, now the colon is still there. Yes, take out the zoom and let's run it again. Yes, that's done. So we've been able to generate the data. We've been also create the new field. So what's the next thing? We want to come back now. We highlighted this. We needed the H code. Very important. You see, this is why I highlight this. I tell students to underline it or draw a star with your pen in the exam hall. Whatever you need to do, you draw an arrow to show that it should be included. So let's go back and include the H code. So we want to include the H code from here. I'm assuming so you can see that again. Right click on my H code and double click on it because I need it for the field tree. Okay, so let's take away the zoom and let's run it again. All right, so we have that here. Now we're going to run the filter. It says the game title includes the text. Now this is include, not begin with, not ends with, but includes this word. So what do you think we'll be using? Now I want to use it from the datasheet view, the game title. Remember I said if you're working in datasheet view, you make sure you do not return back to your design view. It's not equals, it's not begin, it should be contains. I'm going to paste that there, I'm going to run that. Okay, that's the first filter. The second one says age code is C3 or C7. So I'm going to come to my age code, my text filters. I'm going to be using equals here because it's giving me 2 things, directly this or this. So I'm going to be typing C3, or that's a logical operator, or C7. Okay, so we have that, and we can run this, and you have it. Now let's take a look at records. We have 42 records that has been, if you look down here, let me zoom in so you can see it. We have 42 records. So take note of that. At the end of the day, you should have 42 records. Now remember, at this point, you do not want to go back. You do not want to go back to your design view. So I want to save this. I'm going to save this as, let's just say, query 2 report. Okay. All right, that is saved that way. So now let's move directly from here to our report view. You don't want to do another thing. Remember, it should not, it says after. And one thing we should also take note is that this should not be in the report. It was only necessary to use it in running the filter. And I'm going to show you how you can extract, how you can do without it. This is just the query since you're not printing out the query. So let's go back to create our report. Click on report. At this point, when you pick all of this, remember you don't need the age code. We only use it for the filter. It's not going to tamper with the reports. So we can return this back. That's return back. I don't want the age code. I'm going to continue with the rest. Now remember again, I don't want to use this because I don't want it grouped. So you're going to use this one. Click on next. Click next. Once again, I advise you not to do your sort here. Click next. Then what's the page orientation? We want to check question says, orientation is landscape. We're going to come back immediately to do the sorting once we get there so you don't forget. Orientation is landscape, fits on a single page with. Now, many students usually get confused when they hear fits on a single page. I have the question like, was I supposed to print it only on one page? Particularly, it says fits on a single page width, meaning wide, it should be single page, but in length, they did not specify how many pages. Oftentimes, it's usually 2 pages. So let's go back. We pick on landscape, and we click on next, and then I want to finish. And once I'm done, click on OK. Okay, now this, good. You can see I have this issue. Now, I didn't group my data. So if I want to close it out, let's quickly check what went wrong there. Students usually have such issues like this, and they call on what did I do wrong. Now, if you have such an issue like this, oftentimes what I usually advise, because even if you go to your group and sort, you notice it's not grouped. What I advise is just save what you have done, close your access. Yes, I want to save everything. Okay, and I want to open back access. Now let's check it again. Because this could actually make you to lose composure in the exam hall if you're not careful. Enable all contents, and let me check my report again. Okay, now can you see the report is now, we now have everything there. Okay, but now, this is very good. Even in the report now, let me check my queries. I have my form, I have my 2 queries, I have my second report. Okay, this is games 1. Okay. Let's confirm the report. We have game title, this, across. Okay, yeah, the sale percent. So this is the correct report. I like this that happened now. Remember, I told you I was going to show you how to carry out the sort or the filter also in the report interface. Now, if you have this type of situation, the exam situation, you might want to get fidgeting, but just not to worry. I'm going to show you how to do that. Now we can go back again. It says this should include 2 marks, right? And age code is not one of the fields we imported. So how do we do that if you're in this situation? All right, let's go back to our design view. How do I bring in a field that is already existing? Okay, I want to close this. So you just want to go to locate your field. I'm coming. I want to bring in a new field. Sorry. Okay. Yes, we want to add an existing field. So when you click on that, you're going to have this here. If you take, let's go closer. But it's not on this table we want it, because this is the games table. Okay, we want the age code. Now you can see the age code is here. It's already added to this, but it's not in this particular report. Let's take a closer look at that. Is it because we didn't include it? It's not in the report. It's stopped at the price and the sales percent. Okay, so we want to double click on this. It's going to add it in here. Let me take away the zoom again. But take note where it added it. If I move back, it's added it here. All right, so I want to move it somewhere. Sorry, move it somewhere just in case you have such situation. I want to move it away back to somewhere I can actually use it to run my filter. Now I want to click on this and delete the label so that I'm left with only the detail. Okay, now let's start adjusting. I want to bring this in a little, and I want to reduce the size. Then you could draw your box again on this 2. I don't want this included. Draw this 2. If you do this quickly in the exam situation, you have to maintain your composure. Don't get fidgeting thinking you've done something wrong. Okay, and we could do the adjustment later. Now I want to bring this age code. I want to come on. What's wrong with you? Okay, I want to drop it somewhere here. Okay, now let's go back. I'm not bothered about the label because at the end of the day, I'm not going to need this in my final report. So let's go back to our view and see in our layout view. Okay, now, yes, this is going to happen because you've already made this wider. I like this situation because you can see if you're in exam condition, everything does not always work perfectly. You should know how to find your way whenever you get stuck. All right, now if I reduce this width back, let's go back to a layout view, and you can see it's now including the age code. Okay, so now let's close this. All right, now let's begin the readjustment so we can see this. Let me just bring this in. All right, let me bring this in also. And lastly, I want to reduce this. Remember, I told you use your shift and your arrow key to resize that. Okay, I'm going to take that out at the end. I'm going to show you how to do that. My price here, my sales percent over my sales percent. Okay, very good. Now, remember I told you the first thing we do so that we don't forget is you want to sort. But before the sorting, because this has taken away all our filtering, let's filter now. We have the game title includes the text, Thomas. So I come to my game title. Remember I'm in my layout view. You can right click, then you go to your text filters again, contains this. So you see, even if you do not filter in the query, you can do your filtering here in your report view. I come to this, the next one says the age code is C3 or C7. I want to right click on this, go to equals C3 or C7. Okay, sorry, I didn't have my C7 there, C7. Okay, and that is done. Let's take a look at it in the print preview. Do we have 2 pages? So you see, easily now you can get yourself back, composure, you don't feel disturbed in the exam situation. Yes, we have just 2 pages. Okay, and that is done. Now, once I'm done with that, I want to save the report. Remember, I don't want this particular field in my final printout. So how do I do with that? I want to go to my property sheet. And let me zoom in. You want to turn on the visibility. You look for the option visible. Here it is visible, and I want to say no. Meaning in the printout, when I want to print it, it's not going to be visible. Let's check out if that is true. Turn on the property sheet. Let's check the print preview again. And can you see? It's not visible. So with that, the filtering still remains, but that age code is not going to display on the final printout. So now let's go back to our question. We say sorts in what? Where's the sort? It says sorts in data into ascending order of console type, descending order of global sales. So here we come, we click on our group and sort, console type, ascending order. Can you see the console type? Remember, I told you the first option is always the ascending, and you want to add another sort. That's the group. What was the second one, please? Ascending order of console type and ascending order of global sales. So the second one I want to add is global sales. So we have global sales there. Wait. Can you see my global sales? Okay, let's just zoom in so you can all see what I want to pick on. We have global sales. And remember, it's descending order, so I want to pick on the lower option. Beautiful. Once that is done, let's take a look at it. We have the global sales is the descending. Ascending order of console type is the ascending. Yes. Okay. All right, so once we are done with that, we have the 2 levels. Console type, let me just check that again in ascending order of console type. A on top, then in the order, we have the descending order of the group sales. Yes, so once you confirm that, turn off this, then we could go back and let's now go to the next thing. Fits on landscape, yes, includes this as a title. So I want to pick this title. I want to remember this is my layout view. Like I told you, you can do it both. Okay. Then lastly, I want candidates. Okay, now the next thing says calculate the average price and places this below the price column at the end of the report. Let's continue. Format this value as currency with 2 decimal places. So we want to go to the price. Click on the price in the report view. Just right click in the layout view, please. You want to go to your total price, and we want the average. Okay, once you click on it and you scroll down, you'll see it's going to drop it below the price column. Average price. Sorry, please, I'm switching a bit too fast. Now to format the value to be in 2 decimal places. So we come on this. We want to go to my property sheet. 2 decimal places. Allow me to zoom in so you can see. So we want to change our format again. It's in currency, yes, and we want to, it's in 2 decimal places. Okay, so we're in order. Check it there. We have 2 decimal places. Beautiful. But we are not done. And it says has the label average game price fully visible to the left of this. So how do we insert this? You have to go to your design view. Go to the design view. Then beside this, we want to place a label. So you go to your tools. Remember again, not a text box, but a label. So I click on my label. I'm going to place it beside this. Okay. Done. I want to move it up a little. Now it's, why Is it hidden? Okay, expose it. Okay, make sure it's visible. Yes, let's check it out again in the layout view. All right, that's it there. Place to the left of the layouts view. Now has your name, center number, and candidate number in the footer of the report, so it appears in the same position on every page. So once again, we go to our design view very quickly. Go to design view. You want to correct this. So I'm taking away this. Delete this. I'm not using my property sheet. Click on this, delete this. Then you want to insert a label. We are not told which of the sides, so I prefer to put on the left side. You have my name there, John. We have NG 2340001. Okay, now once that is done, let's check it out in a print preview. Okay, but we're not done with the arrangement. Yes, this is done. So lastly, we want to ensure that nothing is hidden. So we want to go to your layout view, check through. Okay, here I have a text, so I'm going to use my arrow key. Click on this to expand it a little. Okay, that's visible. Check down. Okay, do I have any other text? No, all text are visible. Then I go to the next title. Okay, this is not visible. I want to make this a bit smaller. Hold down your shift key and the arrow keys. Take that. Okay. I want to move this so that I could be able to. While you are moving, make sure you're checking to be sure that nothing is hidden. Okay. And you must learn to do this fast because time is not on your side. Also, you're in the exam situation. So that's why it's very important that you practice this. Don't just watch this video. Ensure you try and practice it and be sure you have good mastery of everything you are doing before the exam situation. Make sure you practice properly because practice is what enforces your perfection. Okay, sorry, I want to flash that. Okay, now that is visible. Let's also increase this. Each category. Okay. Good. Now it's not overlapping, it's visible. Can we check through every one of it? Yeah, it's visible. Okay. So it's all visible and we are good to go. We don't have any overlap. All the title is visible. All the field names are visible. They are not overlapping. Okay. Then we have a price. We have a sales percent. Okay. So now we can quickly go down to our print preview to take a look at this. And there it is, the print preview. All details are fully visible. You have your name there. Go to the next page. You have your name. You have age to the left of this. All right, and I think that's about it. So remember, it's very important that you learn to practice. Ensure that you practice this, and when you are done, you can once again you can easily just print this, or you can export it with PDF where you can be able to print out later if you are done. And on this note, I want to end on this data manipulation. Database is quite simple. You've noticed that the question has tested your abilities to use the tables, to use the form, to use the form, yes, to use the queries, and lastly, to use the report object. So make sure you learn how to use all of these 4 objects, and when you practice well, you're good to go. So please, if you like what you've seen, try and subscribe to this channel, and do have a nice time. So I'll see you in the next video where we're going to be working on presentation. Thank you.